Hi everyone and welcome to OSU-Tulsa's very first Grad Chat, our series of webinars that we're going to be doing every Tuesday for the rest of this month. And I'm Kathy Williams, and I'd like to start by telling you just a little bit about myself. Like many of you out there, I am very much a non-traditional student. I did not start my higher education adventure until I was 30, and sorry about that. Didn't start my higher education until I was 30, and then in 2007 I finally finished my master's degree, and I'm probably not done yet because this year I'm going to be applying for one of our graduate certificate programs. So, you know, I have so many things that are my favorite things about OSU, but as you can see in the slide there, one of them who you've probably met before is my dog Sunny, who is a member of our pet posse. You'll see him in many upcoming videos and some of our commercials for our webinars, so be sure and stay tuned. And he's a big help to all of us around here. But what I do here today is help connect people just like yourself who are trying to make the decision to come back to school or maybe start your graduate studies for the very first time. And my job as a recruitment specialist is to help connect you, the prospective student, to the correct, appropriate faculty member to help you make those decisions and help you on your way to get started to that achievement. So that's why I'm so excited to be here. And in a few minutes, we have a very exciting, very esteemed guest joining us today, and that would be Dean Sheryl Tucker. And she is of the OSU Graduate College, and we're going to give you a quick introduction and an overview to graduate studies in general. And when we're done, we'll be answering your questions as well. I have a few that were submitted ahead of time, so go ahead and type in any questions that you may have at this point, and go ahead and send them in. After Dean Tucker finishes answering her questions, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the other services that we have to offer our graduate students here at OSU in Tulsa. I'd also like to welcome everyone who is watching us live on Facebook. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment box and we will get to those as well. And be sure and share this with everyone so they have a chance to log in too. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items to help you be able to put those questions in. Everyone's microphones needs to stay muted for the duration of the webinar. If you have any questions, like I mentioned before, please put them in the chat box. If you can't see the chat box, there is a special blue bubble in the lower left part of your screen, and if you click on that, the chat box should pop up. If you have any other problems with the feed or with commenting, you can also email us. Sorry, yeah, move this forward here. You can also email us at tulsa.gradinfo@okstate.edu for assistance. And lastly, we'll be sending a recording of this webinar to everyone who registered, so look for that in your inbox. And please feel free to share it with anyone who you think might benefit from this information as well. And with all of that taken care of course, I don't want to waste any more time introducing our guest. As Dean of the OSU Graduate College, Dr. Tucker oversees the master's and doctoral degree programs, graduate certificates at OSU's main campus in Stillwater, our OSU-Tulsa campus, as well as the OSU Center for Health Sciences, also right here in Tulsa. So welcome, Dean Tucker. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Kathy. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. I'm so glad that you're interested in the graduate programs here at OSU-Tulsa. We're going to give you some background about how to apply to graduate school and have an opportunity to answer any of those questions at the end. So, you know, in today's world, we are in a global knowledge and technology-based economy, and that makes graduate degrees even more important than they ever have been before. You know, a master's degree has really started replacing the baccalaureate degree as kind of that entry level into many of the jobs based on the fact that those jobs are changing, and they're changing at quite a rapid pace. That graduate degree may also be required in your career for advancement, so that's important to be thinking about, not the job you have today, but what you might want to be doing. Offers in employment and promotional opportunities, you know, many times do take into account what your degree obtainment is, so that gives you an opportunity in terms of your salary, to be increased. You certainly, there are lots of studies talking about the value of a graduate degree, and it enhances your lifetime earnings, as well as a few years ago, it was important in the context that those who had advanced degrees actually had lower unemployment at the time that the economy was in a recession. So I want to talk a little bit about graduate degrees, but focus somewhat on graduate certificates, because many of you are familiar with, after a baccalaureate degree, we have the master's degree. These are typically 2 to 3 year degrees. They may be professionally oriented or non-thesis. They may have a capstone. It could be a portfolio. It could be an internship. It could be a project for a specific company, or those that are traditionally research-based, where they culminate in a thesis. Beyond that, there are degrees that are practice-oriented in education for a doctorate, or those that are very much research-intensive, the Doctor of Philosophy degree. But prior to the master's degree, or during one's obtainment of a master's or doctoral degree, we have graduate certificates. And these really have kind of homogenized across the country about what that really means. So these are typically 12 to 15 credit hours. Those credit hours allow you to try out a graduate degree, earn a professional credential that may be relevant to your current position, or maybe you're a career changer and you're looking for very specific knowledge for that next career. What's really nice about a graduate certificate is all those graduate credit hours can be used in that next advanced degree. So while it's a separate credential, you won't lose those hours if you choose to go on, say you want to pursue a master's degree at that time. And graduate school is a little bit different than what you might be used to if you have only been involved in baccalaureate programs. Our graduate programs tend to be much smaller and are highly specialized. And for that reason, as you move up each level, your knowledge becomes more specialized and focused in an area. The work in a graduate program is a very different intellectual level than what you might have done as an undergraduate. And for that reason, enrollment in a graduate degree program full-time is 9 credit hours typically, unless you have an assistantship, and then it's 6 credit hours. And for many of our students interested here in OSU-Tulsa, part-time enrollment in terms of federal financial aid is 4 credit hours. So you're not enrolling in your typical kind of 15 to 18 credit hours like you did when you were obtaining that undergraduate degree. So that's an important distinction for you to know about. Also, each program will have its own criteria for admission, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But while you are a graduate student, not only are the expectations different, the grades that go along with that are also different. So typically graduate courses, the majority of students are expected to earn A's and B's in those classes. You do have occasional C when you don't have the mastery of the material at that same expertise level, but the graduate GPA is expected to be at 3.0 throughout your graduate career. So we don't see or use kind of those lower grades in the grading scale. So that's something to think about as well. Not to be afraid of that, but just understand it's different. Students in graduate programs very much work closely with faculty. It's a very different situation, particularly in those in research-based programs. A lot of times those are one-on-one or small group interactions for you. So what are some just basics for admission for graduate school? Because these are pretty much kind of across the board. There will be some minimum GPA requirement. And the question is, well, what does that mean? And it is very much program specific. That GPA may have been your entire undergraduate GPA, or they may look at the GPA in the major, or it's possible that they will look at, it's not unusual actually, to look at the GPA in the last 60 hours. And part of that is understanding that sometimes when students transition from high school to being independent in a residential college environment, they might experience it. It's possible that there were things that happened there and they experienced with not doing their coursework as well as they might have hoped. So the minimum GPA requirement will be different in terms of how that's defined by a program. There may be entrance test exam scores. So similarly, when you came out of high school, you may have had to do an ACT or an SAT. At the graduate level, it may be the graduate record exam, the GRE, or more business programs may use, and education programs may use the GMAT. And again, that's if that's required. Courses many times, or programs many times, are actually looking at your transcript for specific prerequisite courses. Because our undergraduate degrees can have different titles, or they may be appropriate that multiple undergraduate degrees funnel into a single graduate degree, it is difficult to tell just from the title of the degree what that coursework was. So there may be prerequisite courses that they really are going to that transcript and looking for. And the other important thing about a graduate program is you really have to be a good match for the program. And what do I mean by that? Because this is really kind of this nebulous term. But if, let's say, you are interested in marine biology, it's quite possible then you wouldn't be looking for a graduate program that's landlocked in the middle of the country. So really you do need to be familiar with the program that you're looking at, what are the emphasis areas of that program, as well as the faculty. So faculty, particularly if you're going to pursue a research degree, what are their research interests, and are those the kinds of things that you're interested in or might be interested in and really just want to know a little more about. So how do you get started? And I think Kathy's going to do a little bit more with that. But the first thing you can do is request program information. So get some more information. There's a lot of information certainly available on websites, but also in the kinds of communications that we'll send to you that are much more oriented around the faculty wanting you to know about their particular program. Graduate programs almost always have a graduate program coordinator as well as staff support. So there's a faculty member and a staff member that many times will be one of the individuals that you'll want to interact with who can really help you know better about the details, deadlines, etc. of their particular program. Because some programs have deadlines for application, some review and only admit students as a cohort, so a group of individuals, and others may admit summer, fall, and spring. They're all different. So you will want to prepare your application materials, and we'll talk about some of the resources for that. Submit that application, and then be aware, as a graduate student, you may actually want to apply for federal financial aid. So that FAFSA form and looking at other funding opportunities. Graduate programs have different funding modalities that we'll talk about a little bit. So that application checklist. What you are going to find is graduate transcripts or your undergraduate transcripts are going to be required. So typically it's just the final transcript that shows all your coursework, and you may have coursework that's been transferred in that's reflected on a single transcript, and that's important, but also it's any graduate coursework you've had or are currently enrolled in. So it's really important if you're currently in a certificate or maybe a master's program and you're looking at doctoral program, that current transcript is relevant to your application. The statement of purpose and goal statement is one of the most important aspects of a graduate application. Again, this is really where you talk about what is your desire to pursue this field of interest, what are the potential matches with the program that you're applying to. So you may even mention some of the projects that specific faculty are working on. You really do want to customize this for that particular graduate program that you're applying to at the time. And what are your career goals? You know, what do you want to do after you achieve your graduate degree? That's an important way that you sell yourself. Some programs do require a resume or a CV, and this really is just a summary of maybe activities you participated in as an undergraduate or even a graduate student, maybe leadership things, community volunteers. You may have work product related to your degree, so you may have expositions or jury works or papers or presentations that you can capture pretty succinctly with the document, whether it be your resume or your curriculum vitae. You also will need letters of recommendation. 3 is the typical number for an application that you will see from most of the graduate programs here at OSU. And students a lot of times ask me, well, who are the best recommenders? Really, when you're applying to a graduate program, you should think about in that 3 having at least one from a faculty member, from an academic institution that you've currently done or previously done work at least one, possibly two, and programs may have some specifics there as well. But when you look for letters of recommendation, you're really looking for people who can speak to your talent and abilities and the possibility that you'll be successful in a graduate program. And then again, entrance test exam scores, I mentioned GRE and GMAT. Again, ask if those are required. They may or may not be, that you may have a period of time in which you have to do those exams. Some programs have that in the first year, you have to achieve a certain score. And many programs, particularly if you have work or professional experience, those entrance exam scores, if required, may actually be waived. So I do think it's really important to ask about that. Don't assume that those are necessary until you find out what the specific program or programs that you're looking at. And you can apply to multiple programs within the system. Some other differences that in graduate school versus undergraduate, some of it is the terminology and the types of support. So there may be scholarships, or a lot of times you may see these called fellowships at the graduate level, but these may be outright gifts based on merit or first generation status, something like that's very specific. And they may not have, excuse me, scholarships and fellowships may not have any work required with them. So those are for enable you to go to school, but it's not required that you work in a teaching or research capacity potentially with those. And of course, I've mentioned the financial aid. There's different types of financial aid available to you. And I think that's going to be discussed a little bit more later as well. At the graduate level, there are many students who receive professional experience, so they do graduate teaching or research assistantships. And what that typically means is that for 20 hours a week, which is a half-time assistantship position, so a 0.5 we call FTE, full-time equivalent, you are assigned to assisting a faculty member or being an instructor of record for a specific class. It may be an online class that you're working with, you may be grading, or you may have a specific research project and duties associated with that. So that is an important support mechanism, and the qualifying assistantships do come with tuition waiver for resident and non-resident tuition, as well as a subsidy for single-person health insurance. So that's at the half-time. The insurance subsidy also comes into play if you're in a quarter-time teaching or research position, and that's the 10 hours a week approximately. And you can stack assistantships of 2 quarter times to get to a half-time, but that typically is a limit during the spring and fall semester, so you could do half-time. And of course, there's student employment all across our campus units that need additional help, whether that be seasonal or throughout the entire semester. And with the assistantship, I should just mention quickly, again, as I said earlier, if you have an assistantship, which is a half-time appointment, you can also reduce your enrollment if you're a full-time student to 6 credit hours. And for those pursuing doctoral degrees, there's further enrollment reductions at that time. Just want to put some contact information up here for you for career services here at OSU-Tulsa. And you can, if you prefer to email or you could call, we'll be happy to look at those questions you may have and connect you. And Kathy does a great job of connecting our students to the faculty in our graduate programs. And at this point, I believe I have time to answer any questions that may be coming up about some of the things we've covered, or just about graduate school in general. Maybe there's an area that we completely missed that you are interested in hearing about.
Looks like we had a couple come in while you were speaking. Thank you. Okay. Would you prefer I just read those out to you?
Yeah,
okay.
Kathy's going to come over here and join us and read those, and so only one of us may have to have our glasses.
True. One of them that came in earlier this morning before we even started, you spoke a bit about the GRE and GMAT, and this person asked is if I have a master's degree from another school and I did not require a GRE, do I still have to take one for OSU if it's mentioned in that particular program?
I would definitely contact the program. So at the graduate college level, we have no requirement for the GRE or the GMAT, but each program has its individual requirements. I would reach out because you may not be aware, but the students come into our graduate programs, some of them straight out of the baccalaureate, others are from, like this individual has a master's degree, maybe looking for probably to go into a doctoral program, and we have those who have professional work experience. So I would specifically ask the graduate program whether you would receive a waiver given you've already achieved a master's degree.
Thank you. It looks like Ashley wrote in and asked if a grad student is on academic probation status and does not keep the B average or above, what typically happens to the student, and is the student able to apply again for the program, etc.?
Okay, when a student goes on probation, there's certainly a process, and we really ask the graduate program kind of what's going on with this student, and we really work with you in the program to try to ensure you have an opportunity for success. So you wouldn't just drop below a GPA and be out of our program unless it's one of our programs that have accrediting concerns, or it's what we call kind of a lockstep curriculum with a cohort model. That would be really unusual. We'd actually work with you, and most students have a semester to achieve the GPA they need to get off probation. Every once in a while we have a situation where that grade is so low you cannot get off of probation in a single semester, and we understand that. We can do the math as well, and we're happy to work if the student really has been successful that next semester to work with you to give you that additional time to get your GPA back up. But the other thing that's really important for students to know, and we can't tell you this enough, that there are, when things are going wrong, which it's possible, you may have a personal situation, you may have a medical situation, family situation, there are options. Before you get into that situation, talk to the faculty member who's teaching the course, as well as the graduate program coordinator. You may qualify for an incomplete grade, which would allow you to complete that work at a later time. You may also qualify for a leave of absence. And so we do a leave of absence where we do have a form, of course. The graduate college has a few forms, but that leave of absence really helps the student and the program agree on the leave, in terms of if you leave a program and let's say you're on an assistantship, there may not be a guarantee that that position is available. So let's say you're on a research assistant and the grant is ending. So that's what the form is for, is really so everybody understands the expectations. We do leave of absences. Typically they're a year at a time, and that's not unusual. We have individuals who may be working on or waiting to go to the Peace Corps in the middle of their program. They would take a leave of absence. Yes, and military leaves of absences are governed by state and federal regulation, and that's pretty pro forma. It's just really taking care of business too. So everybody knows that that's what's going on. The other form is really geared towards kind of life circumstances. Okay. So we hope that before you end up in a situation with a poor grade in a class, that there's a possible intervention to assist you with academically achieving, or if it's a life circumstance, that we let you know at least what your opportunities are, so that you can re-engage maybe at a later time.
So the best advice for, just as in life in general, prior to your application, if there's some things that need to be addressed or fixed, or even during the process of your education, the main thing is communication. You know, communication. It's like location
right. And real estate. It really is, because if you're experiencing a situation, and you don't have to go into great detail with people, but if you're experiencing a situation, individuals that can help you have to know about it. Right. And again, I think we do have some real mechanisms to assist you, but we have to know what's going on. You know, all you can even say, you know, I have a personal situation or death in the family. That's all we need to know to talk to you about what your options are.
We have another question from Heidi. And Heidi asked, if I have attended several colleges sporadically over 30 years before and finally received my bachelor's, Congratulations, by the way. If I understand correctly, I just need to submit my transcript from the college I graduated from. If it has my previous college information on it, is this correct?
It is. You know, many years ago when some of us were going through, you didn't have concurrent enrollment, you didn't have online and distance options. You really tended to take most of your classes either where you grew up or where you ultimately went on to school, and you may have had 1 or 2 transcripts. Well, now we recognize that people like this individual just said, I think it was Kathy,
Heidi, I think, yes,
that asked us, you could have 30 transcripts, and nobody wants you to try to, one, there's expense of getting them, but 2, you have to remember them all and figure out where you go and are they electronic or paper. So we asked that we want the transcript with your baccalaureate degree conferred, and if you're currently an undergraduate, you would give us an unofficial, an official transcript that's not complete because you're still enrolled, and then before you enroll, say in the fall, we would ask for that final transcript. In terms of graduate work, though, we do want to see your graduate work from all your institutions. That's a little unusual that you'd have that many. Could be possible, and if that's the case, certainly reach out and contact the Graduate College and we can talk through that with you. But most people's graduate transcripts, you could count on one hand kind of how many of those might be out there, and many times one of them is your current enrollment.
There's so many of us out there that just still haven't decided what we want to be when we grow up. So, you know,
Yes.
with we have one left, and I believe this is a financial aid question here. Let's see. I'm going to school part-time and I don't want to take out loans. Is there a payment plan? And the answer, I believe that Susan Tolbert, who's our Director of Financial Aid, has given me some information about financial aid in particular. And the payment plan is yes. The answer is yes. That OSU offers a payment plan that allows you to pay out the cost of your graduate courses each semester. If your employer has a program to pay for your courses, then third-party billing is also available. Contact the bursar's office for more information on both of these options.
And that's a really good point. If you are currently employed, ask your employer about educational benefits. Many times they're underutilized, and employees are not really aware that there are
tuition
benefits.
Reimbursement programs.
Absolutely. Now they probably expect you to be successful in those courses, so you have to remember that. But you know, it is important to understand the financial aspects because many of the employer programs are reimbursement after the fact.
After the fact, exactly, once they received your grades. We have one more, another one from Denise here, and Denise wants to know, how do students request accommodations for disability in the graduate programs? I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on this time. What would that process begin with, and with the graduate advisor? And thank you.
Okay. Well, we have an Office of Disability Services on all our campuses, and similar to if you work through this as an undergraduate, that's where you start in terms of contacting them and about what that accommodation would be, and they'll walk through that with you. For many students, it's additional time on testing, and that applies at the graduate level as well. And so they're happy to work through that with the faculty members in the program. If you have a physical disability that may need accommodated, say in a research lab, etc., that's important to work with the graduate program so they can make sure when you matriculate that has been handled and any necessary changes to the laboratory environment can be done in an expedient manner.
Awesome. I know that there are many services that a lot of people think are only available to undergraduate programs, but they are very much available to our graduate students as well.
You know, that is an excellent point. That many graduate students don't think about the services that they took advantage of as an undergraduate. So everything from, you know, recreation centers, health centers, counseling centers, career service, it's all available to graduate students. And many times there's specific office hours or sessions or workshops geared explicitly for that population, for the graduate student population. So it's an important point. Here at OSU, we want to develop you as a person, a professional, and a scholar. And so we have a lot of services like that on campus, but the Graduate College also has a 360-degree professional development program that looks at improving your communication skills, your management skills, etc.
Awesome.
So there's other opportunities there, even beyond what you might have experienced when you were an undergraduate.
It was really exciting for me personally to go from an undergraduate to a graduate level, because at that point you do experience that next level of education that really does take you personally as well as professionally to the next level, and it just raises the bar for yourself a lot. And I love the fact that we cater so much here at OSU-Tulsa to the non-traditional student, because many of our students are working adults, they're at home, they've got families, and I found that our program coordinators and our faculty members make themselves very available to the students that they serve.
Well, you know, it's interesting, the term non-traditional student in the graduate education community is starting to go away, because that is our traditional student population anymore. So it's really interesting. So OSU-Tulsa is really kind of ahead of the game in the concepts of having the support structures for that population of students already in place, because that really is the future in graduate education.
Love it. Do we have any other questions out there come in? Okay.
So I'll stick around if there's anything that comes up, but
great.
I'll turn it over to Kathy, and it was a pleasure to visit with you today and with those students out there. We'd be delighted to assist you with understanding what's available for you here at OSU-Tulsa.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Hi again, I just have a few more things to talk about, and mainly one of them in particular is, as Dean Tucker mentioned, is those services that we have available. We talked briefly about some of the financial aid stuff that is available to you here, and as you'll see on your screen there, those are a couple of emails and websites, as well as a phone number for you to reach out and contact. Also, our financial aid office does not need to have an appointment to meet with a financial aid counselor. They are walk-ins, so you're welcome to come in, sign in, and ask for any of the questions that you may have, as well as we mentioned earlier, asking the bursar for the payment plans and different options that they have available. The other one that I wanted to mention and speak a little bit about is career services. I know there were many, there we go. There were many things that Dean Tucker mentioned in her talk and presentation with you guys about what was required for the graduate application. And for OSU prospective students thinking about entering into the graduate programs, you know, there were things like resumes and CVs and the personal statements, cover letters, and all of those things. And all of those things that are required for a successful application to graduate school. Well, our career services is in-house. It's available here right on campus. You can make an appointment with Jessica Bradley, who is our career services specialist, and she can actually help you go over each and every one of these things and help you just make them top-notch so that they look exactly the way that they should look, and give you a much better opportunity, a much better chance at good presentation of yourself on paper. One of the other things that we also offer, a lot of people don't even realize this, is practice interviews. We have companies that actually come in and do mock interviews to help polish your skills. So it's not just you on paper, but it's your soft skills as well. How to really present yourself well in an interview. And all of these things that you see here on your screen are free for all of our OSU students and our recent alumni. We also help in job search assistance, again, resumes and cover letters. We offer free resume paper and thank you cards. Thank you cards are just underrated, I think. When you send one after an interview, it's just such a nice professional polish. And another thing that I don't think a lot of our students are aware of is that we offer free student business cards. And they are so important to have that business card available. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been corrected. They're not free, they're $5. But that's pretty darn cheap compared to what they do cost out there in the real world. So come in and let us print you off some business cards so that you have them available for those interviews. as well as for networking. The power of the networking opportunity and the business card in hand is huge. And we do offer 2 career fairs every year, as well as several other networking opportunities throughout each of our different programs. And we also have thousands of job postings through our hire system. A lot of people don't know what the hire system is, and I don't want to go into too much depth about it, as you can make your appointment to meet with Jessica to explain that. But we have thousands of employers that actually post their listings, as well as they come on and look for our students and different resumes that are available that meet their qualifications. So with that being said, there is your link for the OSU-Tulsa Career Services. Jessica is available by appointment to help you with any of those things that you may need. And I would love to help you get started in that direction as well, not just to career services or whatever, but on to your next opportunity for higher ed. If you are not sure about the direction that you want to go, you're not sure about which program is right for you, let's start by just having a conversation. Give me a call, come in and see me. You can contact me right there through that information, those links and those phone numbers. And I would love to just sit down and go over different programs or different certificates that we have available here. Talk to you about the end result of those, what the requirements might be for those, and see if they are, as Dr. Tucker said, if they're a good fit for you, because that is critical for your success in that degree program. So with that being said, please share this with anybody who might have missed this opportunity, and remember to tune in every Tuesday over the next month. Each Tuesday we'll be focusing on different degree options, different degree programs, and our next one is going to be focusing on our graduate certificates. And so we're real excited about those because it's a very growing area. And then follow on from there, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us.